It began so subtly that no one paid much attention at first. Bella, the family's golden retriever, had always been calm, obedient, and affectionate. She wasn't the kind of dog to act out or fixate on things, until she began showing an unusual interest in the hallway mirror. The mirror itself had been there for years, a tall, antique thing framed in dark wood, leaning against the wall across from the staircase. But now, Bella wouldn't leave it alone. She'd sit in front of it for long stretches of time, staring not at her reflection, but at the lower right-hand corner. Her nose would twitch, and she let out a soft, almost mournful whine. Then she started pawing at the glass. Not frantically, gently, almost delicately, as if she was trying to touch something just beyond reach. At first, the family brushed it off. "She probably thinks it's another dog," Dad said with a chuckle. Mom snapped a few photos and posted them online, amused by Bella's sudden fascination. But after a few days, the novelty wore off. Bella kept going back to that same spot, day and night. The whimpering grew more persistent. One evening, she refused to leave the hallway at all, even skipping dinner, which was entirely unlike her. That's when the laughter stopped. Something about her behavior didn't feel like play anymore. It felt like she was trying to warn them. Not long after Bella's strange fixation began, the atmosphere in the hallway shifted. It wasn't a physical change, not at first. There was no drop in temperature, no flickering lights. But the feeling was undeniable. The air felt heavy, as if weighted with unseen eyes. The once cozy hallway, lined with family photos and cheerful wallpaper, now gave the family a chill each time they passed through. They began noticing flickers of movement in their peripheral vision, quick shadows that disappeared the moment they turned their heads. At first, they laughed it off, blaming it on stress or poor sleep. But the unease was spreading. Even the family cat, Jasper, who usually roamed the house freely, started avoiding the hallway altogether. He hissed if anyone tried to carry him past the mirror. The real turning point came one afternoon when little Emma, just 3 years old, stopped in front of the mirror, stared for a long moment, then pointed and said, "Scary girl." A heartbeat later, she burst into tears and clung to her mother's leg. Bella's behavior intensified. She now refused to leave the hallway after dark, positioning herself between the mirror and the rest of the house like a guardian. Her usual gentle demeanor gave way to growling whenever anyone got too close. Then one night, a commotion shattered the silence. Bella barking with rage, leaping at the mirror, claws screeching down the glass. The family rushed in, hearts pounding. That was the moment they realized this wasn't just a quirk or coincidence. Something was seriously wrong. Worried by Bella's increasingly frantic behavior and the strange atmosphere surrounding the hallway, the family finally decided to take a closer look at the mirror. It had always been a decorative piece handed down from Grandma, never drawing attention before. But now, as they leaned in and examined the spot Bella obsessively pawed at, they noticed something disturbing. There was a smudge on the inside of the glass, not on the surface, but behind it. No amount of rubbing or cleaner made it fade. It was faint, but clearly there, the impression of a tiny handprint, not smeared like a child touching from the outside. This was beneath the glass, as though trapped behind it. It was small, far too small to be from anyone in the house. Dad stared at it silently, then fetched his toolbox. "Maybe there's mold," he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. The idea that this might be a structural issue, something mundane, brought a sliver of comfort. Together, they began removing the mirror from the wall, carefully prying it from the mounting brackets. But the moment they shifted it free, that comfort shattered. Behind the mirror wasn't drywall or studs, but wood, old, splintered boards nailed together with rusted iron spikes. It wasn't just backing. It was covering something. They exchanged uneasy glances. Bella whined beside them, tail down, staring at the wall with unblinking intensity. Something was hidden behind the mirror, something that had been sealed away long ago. As the mirror was fully removed, the family stared in disbelief. There, behind where it had hung for years, was the outline of an old door, hidden and forgotten sealed tightly behind wooden boards that looked as though they hadn't been touched in decades. The frame was thick, its edges worn by time, clearly from another era. It didn't match the rest of the hallway, which had been remodeled several times over the years. This door wasn't part of any blueprints they remembered. It was as if the house itself had tried to forget it. Confused but intrigued, Dad grabbed a flashlight and his toolbox. Dust billowed from the cracks as he examined the wood. The boards were brittle and splintering, coated in layers of cobwebs and grime. As he pried them off one by one, each creaked with protest, releasing stale, musty air from the darkness behind. The deeper he went, the more obvious it became. Someone had wanted this door to stay closed. Heavy nails, corroded by time, held iron bars cruelly fastened across the frame, as if to imprison something inside. Bella stood still beside them, her fur bristling, body tense. Her tail hung low and a soft, continuous growl rose from her throat. She wasn't warning them. She was bracing. When the final board was removed and the last bolt pried free, the family stood in a tense silence. The door loomed before them, weathered and cold. They exchanged hesitant glances, hearts pounding. Then, slowly, they opened it. They brought the old, dust-covered journal upstairs with shaking hands. Its leather cover was cracked, the spine nearly disintegrating from age. Inside, the yellowed pages were delicate but still intact. The ink had faded, yet the words remained legible, each one a cry from the past. The journal belonged to a girl named Lila. She had once lived in their home nearly 70 years ago. Her handwriting was neat and innocent, filled with stories of a world far smaller than it should have been. As they read, a harrowing truth emerged. Lila hadn't lived a normal childhood. Her father had locked her away, insisting he was protecting her from the world. Day after day, she rode the darkness, the silence, and her growing fear. Her only light came from memories of her mother and from the vivid dreams of a golden dog who visited her. In those dreams, the dog curled beside her, warm and loving, never leaving her side. She began to write about the dog like it was real, her only friend, her only comfort. Then came the final entry, written in a shakier hand. "It's so cold now. I think I'll sleep forever. Maybe the golden dog will come for me soon." Tears fell from Mom's cheeks as she gently closed the journal. No one spoke. Bella lay at her feet, quiet and still, her head resting on her paws, her eyes distant. Somehow, it felt like she knew, as if the golden dog Lila waited for had finally come. They carried the brittle journal upstairs with the care one might give a sacred object. Its leather cover was cracked with age, edges worn thin, and the spine nearly coming apart. As they opened it, the scent of dust and time rose into the room. Inside, the pages were yellowed and fragile, yet the handwriting remained legible, delicate loops and slanted lines, the voice of a little girl reaching across decades. Her name was Lila. She had lived in the house nearly 70 years ago. The entries began innocently enough. Descriptions of her favorite doll, the way sunlight looked through the window, but soon the tone darkened. Lila had been locked away by her father, who believed he was protecting her from the world. Entry after entry told a story of isolation, confusion, and longing. She missed her mother terribly. She prayed for someone to come. And often, she wrote about a golden dog who came to her in dreams, curling beside her to chase the dark away. The final entry, dated in shaky handwriting, simply read, "It's so cold now. I think I'll sleep forever. Maybe the golden dog will come for me soon." Mom couldn't hold back her tears. The tragedy was unbearable. She looked down at Bella, who sat quietly by her feet, head resting on her paws, eyes filled with something deep and old, as if she had always known. That night, the family gathered in the hallway, hearts heavy but resolute. They placed a bouquet of soft wildflowers in Lila's journal gently in the small, hidden room behind the old door. A single candle stood beside them, its flame flickering softly in the still air. They didn't know any prayers, but their silence was reverent, full of respect and sorrow for the little girl who had waited in darkness for so long. Bella lay beside the candle, her ears low, and then, with a deep breath, She raised her head and let out a long, mournful howl, a sound unlike any they had ever heard from her. It echoed through the house, rising and falling like a farewell. The next morning, everything had changed. The hallway, once oppressive and cold, now felt warm and calm, as though sunlight had found a way in that had never been there before. The shadows were gone. The air was lighter. Bella no longer sat at the mirror or pawed at the corner. Instead, she trotted past it with her tail wagging gently, finally at ease. Even Jasper, the cat who once avoided the space like it was cursed, now strolled through with casual indifference. Later that week, the family contacted local historians. What they discovered was chilling but affirming. A girl named Lila had indeed lived in the house and had been reported missing in 1953. Her father claimed she ran away, but neighbors had long whispered otherwise. Now, with Lila's journal in the secret room uncovered, the truth could finally be told, and justice, in some quiet way, had finally come. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal, at least on the surface. The house was brighter, lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. But one quiet night, long after family had gone to bed, Mom stirred from sleep with an odd feeling. She padded down the hallway and stopped in her tracks. Bella was sitting silently in front of the newly mounted mirror, calm and still. She wasn't pawing or growling, just watching, her golden coat glowing faintly in the soft light. As Mom stepped closer, the air in the hallway shifted. A warmth, gentle and comforting, filled the space, the kind that wrapped around your shoulders like a blanket on a winter's night. Then, in the mirror's reflection, Mom saw something that made her breath catch. For the briefest moment, standing beside Bella's reflection was a little girl, no older than 6, her hair long and soft, her dress fluttering as if caught in a breeze. "Lila," she smiled, a quiet, grateful smile, and gently rested her hand on Bella's head. The golden retriever's reflection leaned into the touch with peace in her eyes. Then, as quickly as she had appeared, the girl faded, like morning mist dissolving under sunlight. Mom stood frozen, tears welling. Bella turned, walked over, and gently nuzzled her hand. They never saw the girl again. But from that night forward, Bella was more than just a dog. She had become something more, an old soul, a silent guardian, a friend who had heard the cry of a forgotten child to the veil of time and answered it